Separate is Never Equal by Duncan Tonatiuh. This is a true story of Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregation. Please note that students should be familiarized with the definitions of these keywords as well as the mixed codex art form. There's a sample here, but it's also demonstrated throughout the book. Also keep in mind that this lesson plan is based on a 30-minute time frame, so we will be skipping some pages throughout the book, but we're just going to stick to our objective. Separate is Never Equal. Sylvia Mendez and Her Family's Fight for Desegregation by Duncan Tonatiuh. Sylvia had on her black shoes. They were shiny new. Her hair was perfectly parted into 2 long trenzas. It was her first day at the Westminster School. The halls were crowded with students. She was looking for her locker when a young white boy pointed at her and yelled, "Go back to the Mexican school. You don't belong here." For the rest of the day, Sylvia did not speak or introduce herself in her classes. She kept her head down when walking in the halls. When she got home that afternoon, she told her mother, Felicidad, what had happened. "I don't want to go to that school anymore. The kids are mean." "Sylvia," said her mother, "no sabes que por eso luchamos? Don't you know that's why we fought?" Now, who can tell me if that was a nice thing or a mean thing that this young boy did to Sylvia? Three years earlier, in the summer of 1944, Sylvia and her brother Herman and Gonzalo Jr. and their parents had moved from the crowded city of Santa Ana, California, to the farms in nearby Westminster. Her father, Gonzalo Mendez, had labored for years as a field worker, picking grapes and oranges. Now he was leasing a farm. He was going to be the boss. On their new farm, they were going to grow asparagus, chiles, and tomatoes. As the summer came to an end and the first day of school neared, Aunt Soledad drove Sylvia and her brothers and her cousins, Alice and Virginia, to the local public school on 17th Street so they could enroll. Sylvia was going to enter the 3rd grade, Gonzalo was going to enter 2nd, and Herman 1st. What a handsome school, thought Sylvia. As they pulled into the parking lot, trees lined the streets in front of the school. There was a playground with monkey bars and a red swing. When they walked into school, they noticed that the hallways were spacious and clean. Now, who would like to attend this school? I know I would. "I'm here to enroll the children in school," said Aunt Soledad. When they arrived at the principal's office, the secretary gave Aunt Soledad 2 enrollment forms, one for Alice and one for Virginia. But she did not give an enrollment form for Sylvia or her brothers. "They cannot attend this school," said the secretary. "They must go to the Mexican school." "Why do I have to go to the Mexican school?" Sylvia wondered. She was not Mexican, she was American. She spoke perfect English. Her father was from Mexico, but he had become a U.S. citizen, and her mother was from Puerto Rico, which was a U.S. territory. Aunt Soledad was upset. "But we all live in this part of town." Sylvia looked at her cousins. They had light skin and long ombre hair, and their last name was Bellari. Their father was Mexican but of French descent. Then she looked at her brothers and her own hands and bare arms. She wondered, is it because I have brown skin and thick black hair and my last name is Mendez? Rules are rules, said the secretary. The Mendez children have to go to the Mexican school. I will not enroll any of them then, said Aunt Soledad, and she stormed out of the office, taking Sylvia and the other children with her. Now raise your hand if you think Sylvia was right in her assumption of the color difference, and that being the reason why she wasn't able to attend 17th Street School. That fall, Sylvia and her brothers had to attend Hoover Elementary, better known as the Mexican School, on Olive Street in the city of Westminster. The building was a cardboard shack, and the halls were not spacious or clean. A cow pasture surrounded the school. The students had to eat lunch outside, and flies would land on their food. There was an electric wire that surrounded the pasture to keep the cows in. If you touched it, you would receive a shock. The school did not have a playground, not even a swing. Would you like to attend this school? I know I wouldn't. The Mendez family did not give up. Time and time again, Sylvia heard her father talk with co-workers, friends, and other parents. It's not fair that our kids have to go to an inferior school, he said. It's not only the building that's the problem. The teachers at the school don't care about our children's education. They expect them to drop out by 8th grade. How will our children succeed and become doctors, lawyers, or teachers? Mr. Mendez created a group called the Parents Association of Mexican American Children. He tried to collect signatures for a petition to integrate the schools so that all children, regardless of their skin color or background, could have the same opportunities. But every time he asked someone to sign the petition, he would get the same answer. No queremos problemas. We don't want any problems. Many of the parents worked on farms owned by white families and feared that they would lose their job if they supported the petition. Why weren't people signing the petition? Can anyone tell me? Because they were scared that they might lose their job. That's correct. One day, a truck driver overheard Mr. Mendez trying to convince a worker to sign his petition. You know, said the truck driver, you could file a lawsuit. The truck driver told Mr. Mendez about a lawyer named David Marcus who had filed a lawsuit on behalf of the people of San Bernardino and had helped them integrate the public pools there. At the time, not only were schools segregated, but also other public places as well, such as pools, parks, and movie theaters. Some businesses even had signs that read, "No dogs or Mexicans allowed." Mr. Mendez decided right there and then to hire Mr. Marcus, even if it meant having to spend all of his savings to do so. Is this segregation? Yes, it is. How do you feel about the sign? Do they look happy? But they do. The trial was held at the courthouse in Los Angeles. Sylvia and her family dressed in their best clothes and sat at the courtroom to listen. The hearing lasted 5 days. Each day, Mr. Marcus called to the stand parents from the different districts of Orange County and the superintendent from each district too. On the first day, Mr. Kent, the superintendent of the Garden Grove district, was questioned. He said he sent children to the Mexican school to help them improve their English. That's a lie, thought Sylvia. Her English was good, as the English of any of the children at the Westminster school. Do you give the children any tests? Asked Mr. Marcus. Mr. Kent claimed he did. We do so by talking to them. That's another lie, thought Sylvia. Sylvia wanted to yell. I'm sorry. That's another lie, Sylvia wanted to yell. No one had questioned her. They rejected her from the Westminster school without asking a thing. Judge Paul McCormick took almost a year to give his decision, but when he did, he ruled in favor of the Mendes family. In his ruling, he said that public education must be open to all children by unified school associations regardless of lineage. This meant that everyone must be allowed to attend school no matter what his or her background. Mr. Mendes' victory made newspaper headlines. Sylvia's family was ecstatic, but they did not have much time to celebrate because the school board appealed the decision. That is, they asked for judgment with more authority to renew the case and change the results. The case was renewed by the Court of Appeal in San Francisco. During the appeal, the Mendes family received support from the League of United Latin American Citizens, the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, the Japanese American Citizen League, and the American Jewish Congress, and other organizations. These groups sent letters with information relevant to the case and asked the judge to rule in favor of the Mendes family. Sylvia was amazed that people of different backgrounds and from different parts of the country who had never met her family were getting involved in the case and trying to help them. But her mother said, "Cuando las cosas se juntan, los demás te siguen. When you fight for justice, others will follow." On April 15, 1947, the judge in the Court of Appeal in San Francisco ruled in favor of the Mendes family again. That June, Governor Earl Warner signed the law that said that all children in California were allowed to go to the same school. In California, were allowed to go to school together, regardless of race, ethnicity, or language. So remember, said Sylvia's mother, we fought to make sure you could attend a good school, have equal opportunities. Sylvia thought long and hard about what her mother said. The next day, she returned to the Westminster school. This time, she did not listen to any whispers. She ignored the children who pointed at her and called her names. Instead, she held her head high. Her parents had fought not only for her and her brothers, but for all her classmates. Looking around, she saw that other children were smiling at her. By the end of the day, she had made a friend, and by the end of the school year, she had made many friends of different backgrounds. She knew that her family had fought for that. Now, who can tell me what Sylvia and her family fought for? Desegregation is correct. How do you feel about this book?